Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Across the South. I'm your host, as always, Aubrey Kelly. And before we jump into the episode, I've got some really great news. I've been going back and forth with Spotify between my last few episodes because of the intro music, which, if you watched episode 7 last week, you know that I've changed that music since. But Spotify went out and blocked episodes 4, 5, and 6. I've been going back and forth with them for a couple of weeks, and I'm happy to announce that all 3 of those episodes are back on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you've missed those episodes, if you didn't go to YouTube and watch episodes 4, 5, and 6, now you can go back and catch up with those episodes on Spotify. But, we've got the issues fixed. I'm happy. I'm going to continue using the new music because I've used it in episode 7. Nothing's been claimed from it yet. Hopefully never. But we've got all that set up to keep this train moving, to keep the podcast going. And let's get right on in to episode 8 of Across the South. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. Each and every week we kind of do a recap of the previous week's SEC football games, and we're just going to keep going on with week 11, little recap, starting off number 5, Georgia at Mississippi State. I thought this was going to be a difficult one for the Red Bulldogs, not the Maroons, talking about Georgia. I thought that Mississippi State was going to put up a little bit more of a fight than they did. It was a final score of 41-21 as Georgia keeps rolling, making sure they stay in that top 12 to compete in the college football playoffs. Now, Mississippi State's quarterback, Blake Shapen, exited early due to an injury, so that introduced freshman Kamario Taylor on the Mississippi State offense. He didn't do too great. Yeah, again, he's a freshman. He hasn't really seen a lot of playing time this year. 6 for 10, 174 yards. He had 3 rushing touchdowns and no interceptions, but when you go 10 total passes, it's not uncommon to not throw an interception unless it was just straight to the defender. On the other side with Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, 18 for 29, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's still improving. He's still showing that there's work needed to be done, but he's getting the job done. He's keeping Georgia up there at the top with their record, and they have a chance to make a deep run in the college football playoffs if they keep everything going the way that they have. Next game, Citadel at number 6, Ole Miss. This was a no-brainer. Ole Miss with an out-of-conference opponent at home. 0-49 was the total score. Not really a lot to talk about. It's just a good old-fashioned butt-whooping. So there's no need to put salt on the wound against the Citadel. Next, number 3, Texas A&M at number 19, Missouri. I really thought this could be an upset game, but the Aggies have shown why they are number 3 in the nation. 38-17 for the Aggies win. And this is Texas A&M's 5th time starting a season or going 9-0 in program history. Only the 5th time, but it's the first time that they've done it since 1992. So Coach Tim Elko's really got the Texas A&M Aggies where he's wanted them to be all along, and continuing to improve to show that the 12th man is real, that the funding is alive and well. They just needed a coach to do it, and it wasn't Jimbo Fisher, but they definitely found it in Tim Elko. Now, Missouri side, Bo Pribula, who's been fantastic this year and has been starting, is still out with an ankle injury from the week prior in week 10. And it's unclear of when he's going to return, but we got to look at the freshman quarterback of Missouri side, just like we did with Mississippi State, Matt Zollers. He was 7 for 22, 77 yards. That just kind of a basic performance. 7 for 22, not great. Less than 50% of his passes were completed. But again, you're going against Texas A&M, who always has a strong defensive front, and they've really picked up their back half of their defense. They've got a great edge rusher, linebacker, really speedy, quick corners and safeties. So it's not uncommon to kind of see that stat, especially for a freshman quarterback's first time coming in all season long, and it being week 11. But you look on Missouri's side, they're ranked number 19, but Missouri's 0-6 versus AP top 25 opponents. Not a lot of wins against ranked teams for Missouri, and it's kind of like what's the saying? The veil falling, like the magician revealing his tricks. It's all an illusion, so to speak, and that Missouri schedules really weak strength of schedules. They don't have a top strength of schedule. They have a lot of out-of-conference opponents. They played 7 games or 5 games straight at home in Columbus. And once you start seeing them go against, it's weird to say this, but the Vanderbilts, the Texas A&Ms, the Alabamas, the LSUs, it really shows that they're not that well-oiled of a machine. They're not that elite. And in this upcoming year, when they have to start playing non-conference opponents, and a lot of those opponents are going to be top 25 in the nation, I don't think we're going to see these 10-2, 9-3 seasons that have been produced in Missouri. But they host Mississippi State, and then it's on the road against Oklahoma, and then finishing at Arkansas for the end of the season. So they've still got some winnable games. Oklahoma is going to be difficult. Mississippi State will possibly be a close one just because of how they're starting to go. But with Blake shaping out, Missouri should win this upcoming game. Then we had Auburn at number 15, Vanderbilt. And I really thought that Vanderbilt was going to go in and lay the smack down, so to speak, on the Auburn Tigers, especially with Hugh Freeze being fired just the week before. But boy, a 38-45 overtime win for the Commodores was not on my bingo card. Nowhere near did I think that Vandy was going to have to come from behind against the Auburn Tigers and then go into extra to finally pull out the win over this team. It was a quarterback showdown between Diego Pavia and Ashton Daniels. Pavia went 25 for 33, 377 yards and 3 touchdowns. Daniels 31 for 44, 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, you don't get much closer to a quarterback duel than that right there. Cam Coleman, the wide receiver for the Auburn Tigers, had a breakout game, 10 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown. He's been quiet most of the year. So for him to have this breakout game against ranked Vandy was really, really good for him. And I think Auburn has found their new head coach in DJ Durkin. I mean, he was the defensive coordinator, and he has established a culture on the defensive side. I've said it since I started this podcast, and you look everywhere else, Auburn has a very strong defense, but they weren't able to put points on the board because the offensive side of the ball wasn't good. But now you have the defensive culture becoming part of the offensive culture. The whole team all together is functioning on the same mentality and the same level, and you get an outcome like this. I mean, I said it last week, 24 points or fewer in 17 of 22 games under Hugh Freeze's 3 years at Auburn. And here they are putting 38 on the number 15 ranked team in the nation. And they had 527 total yards of offense, and it's the most in an SEC game since 568 yards against Mississippi State in 2019. So, having a breakout of 500 plus total offensive yards against a team like this, where you've struggled on the offensive side of the ball, really shows that DJ Durkin has this team meshing really, really well. Now, as far as moving forward for this week, there's been discussion on whether Ashton Daniels, Jackson Arnold, or the freshman Deuce Knight will get the start against Mercer. They have a bye week, so it'll be the week after. So they do have time to figure this out. But the reason this is so important is there's a decision that falls on Ashton Daniels. He is a redshirted senior transfer from Stanford. If he wants to return for the 2026 season and possibly be the starting Auburn quarterback and get his draft stock up, then sitting next Saturday is the only way for him to do that. You're going against Mercer. We've seen Jackson Arnold. We kind of understand what he can and can't do, and it's not, he can't do a lot more than he can. I say you go ahead and get a look at Deuce Knight. He's your freshman. He's a highly recruited freshman at that. I'd go ahead and have Deuce Knight go. Or if you want, and again, this falls on Daniels, start Jackson Arnold just so that the nerves aren't as bad on Deuce Knight. And then you can make the transition in the second quarter or in the second half if you wanted to do that. But Vandy is still fighting for a top spot to make the college football playoffs. They're ranked 15th. They got the win in overtime, but they're trying to inch their way in there with being a 2-loss team. If they can't really take another loss, otherwise their chances of doing that are gone. We've still got 3 more weeks for them to be able to really squeak in there. There's no telling of who's going to lose, who's going to win. But they could definitely find a way to make it into the top 12 if everything falls in the cards. If all the cards fall in the right spot. There's so many sayings, and I'm trying to say all of them at the same time. But moving on, LSU at number 4, Alabama. This one I thought would be closer because of the little bit of a rivalry between LSU and Alabama, but it was a blowout 9-20 for the Crimson Tide. First game since Brian Kelly was fired last week. Alabama's defense really shut down LSU. They kept them out of the end zone for the first time since 2012. That's 13 years? 13 years it's been since LSU hasn't gone a game without scoring a touchdown. They've scored a touchdown in every game for 13 years. And you fire Brian Kelly and you don't score a touchdown at all. You get 3 field goals, call it a day. Ty Simpson, though, 21 for 35, 277 yards, and 1 touchdown. He's continuously improving ever since that week 1 loss at Florida State. He has come out and been a gunslinger. He's been smart with his decision-making, his ability to read the field, to scan, to find his receivers, to just all around. He is improving as a quarterback, and it's really showing that he is the right guy for the job, and the trust that Kalen DeBoer has had in him since week 1, knowing that he's going to be the starter. He's going to be the quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And we see now that he made the right decision. On the other side with LSU, Garrett Nussmeier, 18 for 21, 121 yards. Not a great performance at all. He's good on the completion side, but not a lot of yardage. 18 for 121. Not a lot of deep balls, probably some screens, some out routes, some quick slants, and then just a little bit of yards that they could get against that Alabama defense. But Nussmeier was benched, so this wasn't the full game. He was benched in the third quarter for the sophomore Mississippi State transfer, Michael Van Buren, if you remember him from last year. And Van Buren went 5 for 11, 52 yards. You should have just kept Nussmeier at that point. I'm not really sure what the decision was, what ultimately led to the benching of Nussmeier, unless it was just he's not performing, let's throw in Van Buren and see what happens. But as far as that goes, there's been no word as to who will start this upcoming weekend for LSU going against Arkansas, who's coming off of a bye week. So it's either going to be Garrett Nussmeier or it's going to be Michael Van Buren. We'll probably know closer to this weekend. I'm looking at my calendar, and I know that this goes up on a Friday. So probably if you're listening to this, there's some news out there saying Nussmeier or Van Buren. But honestly, that's the least of LSU's concerns right now of who's going to be the starting quarterback against a 2-8 team. Because Brian Kelly's lawyers filed a lawsuit on Monday, and LSU and Brian Kelly have been in a standoff, so to speak. LSU wanted to negotiate with Brian Kelly, he's owed a $54 million buyout. And what they're trying to do is say, hey, we'll give you a large lump sum up front, and then we'll slowly pay you the rest of it as the months go on. That way we can that way we can continue having some money in our pockets so we can make a decent hire or have NIL funding. And this was all back when Scott Woodward was still the athletic director. That negotiating started with Kelly, and ultimately Kelly said, no, give me my money. He rejected a $25 and a $30 million deal, or offer, I should say, from Scott Woodward. And he ended up filing a lawsuit saying, you have 10 days to tell me why you fired me. You know, I need the cause for my termination because you just blatantly fired me, and that's not part of, I guess, the contract. Like, there had to be a certain speculation going on in order for LSU to fire Brian Kelly rather than 3 losses or whatever number of losses they have now, or just, I mean, you could say poor performance, but apparently LSU never gave Brian Kelly a cause for his firing, and now that's what he's arguing against the school. The school side of it, the LSU side of it, they're making the argument that even after Kelly was fired publicly all over ESPN, news stations, Sports Center, SEC Nation, whatever it may be, everyone knew that Brian Kelly was fired. The school is claiming that Scott Woodward didn't have authority to terminate Kelly or make settlement offers to him. This is where you kind of say, what do you mean the athletic director didn't have authority to fire basically his employee? Because Woodward hired on Brian Kelly as the LSU head football coach. So he's unable to terminate him. He's unable to give him offers, the 25 and 30 million offer that he did give Kelly, which was rejected. So now you're like, you see the questioning. Well, what this is doing is it stalling that lawsuit so that way LSU can go and find the cause or a cause for Brian Kelly's termination. So through this stalemate, they're holding back Brian Kelly's lawyers and the lawsuit, and then during all of that time, they're looking back to being like, okay, could we fire him for this? Could we fire him for this? Could this be a reason that we fired him? And, you know, you got rid of the athletic director. So the person who could have helped you or could have had an answer of saying, well, yeah, I fired him for this. It's in section 2, subsection A, paragraph B, you know, but he's gone. So now you have everyone scanning that contract, trying to figure out, are we going to have to pay Brian Kelly $54 million right here, right now? Or can we give him a reason for being fired? And then we can go and pay him his 50% by the end of the month, and then he gets a monthly check of the remaining after that. I mean, it's a mess in LSU, or at LSU right now, and that's definitely the big concern when it comes to the athletic department, especially when you need to make a hire, because if you have outside coaches looking in, because LSU is a great job, it's a great place to go, and you have a lot of eyes on you of coaches that would want to be employed there and take that step into the SEC. But with all of this confusion and seeing that you fired a coach and you're not going to pay him, it's kind of docking that job title. And, you know, some coaches might step back and be like, do I really want to get into this mess? Because if you remember, before Brian Kelly was hired, Coach O was fired. And I mean, that was right after a national championship win with a perfect season. And then the next season, he gets 2 losses, boom, you're gone. I mean, there's a lot of high standards for LSU and their athletic department and program, but whenever you get into the depths of the money aspect and how you're going to pay a coach and everything else, it gets really messy and murky, and I don't think anyone wants to trudge through that Cajun mud. But for the last game of Week 11, it was Florida at Kentucky. I thought this was going to be a closer game than it was, because Florida has had some success. Then again, they got rid of Billy Napier. It was a 7-38 slaughtering by the Kentucky Wildcats, coming out on top over the Florida Gators. And a lot of that had to do with the 4 turnovers by Florida. DJ Lagway, 11 for 19, 83 yards, averaging just over 8 yards a pass, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. And that increased his total to 12 on the year. 12 interceptions all year long. That's an interception and a half, an interception a game, at least, averaging out. We're in Week 11 going into Week 12, and he leads the SEC in interceptions. And it's really kind of making you wonder, you know, he's a 5-star recruit. He did really, really well last year as a freshman. What's going on this year? He had a shoulder injury, and a lot of that might be playing parts into it. It could be that Florida doesn't have as strong as an offensive front that they need to. There's no telling what's going on, but something clearly isn't right. He was benched as well. A lot of quarterbacks, either to injury or poor performance, were benched this past week. But freshman Tramel Jones Jr. came in for Lagway. He went 9 for 17, 60 yards. So even the backups all through last week weren't as good as the starters. There's been no commitment from the interim head coach, Billy Gonzalez, Florida Billies. But there's been no comment on who's going to be the starting quarterback moving forward, if it's going to be DJ Lagway or if it's going to be Jones Jr. But Kentucky definitely took advantage of the crippled Gators as they were trying to find a decision on what to do and a game plan of how to get better. But as far as Kentucky went, Cutter Boley, the freshman quarterback, I will add, so, you know, he's been starting all year, I believe. I haven't really kept up with Kentucky because they've been towards the bottom, but Cutter Boley, 18 for 23, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only a single interception. That's not bad. 18 for 23, almost getting close to 200-yard game, and threw for 2 touchdowns. Not bad. The running back, Dante Dowdle, 7 carries, 104 yards, 1 touchdown. That's a great game right there. I mean, close to 20 yards a carry. He definitely knew where the gaps were, how to run hard, fight for extra yards, get free, break tackles, whatever it may be. He had a great game. But we're going to go now from hard knocks to the hardwood as we look at the new AP 25 poll, SEC specific, for basketball. A lot of these teams moved up in their rankings. Great games so far early in the season, you know, weekdays and weekends. great season so far for SEC basketball and even basketball all around in college sports. But starting off, number 8, Alabama, 2-0 is their record so far. Yeah, 2-0 record. They were preseason ranked number 15, so they jumped up 7 spots, and a lot of that had to do with their 103-96 win over number 5 St. John's, who made a deep run in the NCAA tournament last March to the Sweet 16. But they're the first team to score 100 plus points on the road against a top 5 opponent since 2016 Oklahoma. So big stat there. First to score 100 plus points in a regular in regulation or regular season. Yeah, regulation, my bad. Apologies, because overtime does exist in basketball as well. But the first to score 100 plus points in regulation since 2001. That was Kansas, was the last team to do that. Also, its 103 points are tied for the most points scored against a top 10 ranked team in program history. So they really put on a show. They broke a lot of records. Alabama's always, I say always, but in previous years, they've been very dominant in basketball, and they've got that figured out. They face number 2 Purdue, which will be a great game on Thursday, which is today. So no news on that. You have to figure it out yourself on who won that game. But moving on, number 9 Kentucky, who have a 2-1 record so far. They were preseason ranked number 9, so they stayed even with their preseason. 10-0 against non-conference opponents at Rupp Arena under Mark Pope. So the Big Blue Barrage, that's what you want to call it, I don't know, at Rupp Arena up there in Lexington, Kentucky, keeps on keeping on. They did lose Tuesday, though, this past Tuesday, at number 12 Louisville with that in-state rivalry, 88-96. So you might see their ranking a little bit different, but still a 2-1 record, and they will host Eastern Illinois on Friday. Then we have number 10, Florida, 2-1 record. Their preseason rank number 3, so they drop 7 spots. It's pretty big for Florida, and there's a reason as to why they dropped. They're the first reigning champ to lose a season opener since 2003 and 04, that season, and that team was Syracuse. So it's been 21 years since a reigning champion has lost the season opener, and the Florida Gators just did it this year. They're the 4th reigning champions to start 0-1 in the past 30 seasons. 30 seasons, and they're only the 4th team, or the 4th reigning champion to start their season 0-1. Now, they did beat Florida State on this past Tuesday, 76-78. Oh, so close for the Florida State Seminoles, but Florida squeaked it out. Not really sure what's going on. You think that a team like that would be more dominant in the season following, but if they had a lot of players go into the draft or transfer, I know they picked up some transfers as well, so maybe they're still trying to get their team chemistry figured out. But they will host undefeated in-state rival Miami on Sunday. So got to wait a little bit if you're a Florida basketball fan for that next game. But it's going to be a big one, and it's going to be a good one. Then we have number 20 Tennessee with a 2-0 record. Their preseason rank was number 18, so they dropped 2 spots. A little player shout out to Nate Ament. He's the number 4 player in the 2025 Sports Center Next 100. He's the first Tennessee freshman with 20 points in a game since Julian Phillips in 2022. So there's your name for the year for the Tennessee Volunteers, Nate Ament, or Ament, A-M-E-N-T. Trying to figure out how to pronounce some of these players' names, but they will play North Florida, or they already played North Florida yesterday. I didn't get the score on that. They could be 3-0. It's possible. I don't see why they'd lose to North Florida. Then at number 21 is Arkansas with a 2-1 record. Preseason rank was number 14, so they drop 7 spots as well. The same, like with Florida. But from number 14 to number 21, and this is where I'm a little baffled. They have a 3-point loss on the road against Michigan State. It was 66-69 as the final. Now, I know that Michigan State was ranked 22 at the time, I believe, but dropping 7 spots from a 3-point loss on the road seems a little crazy. I don't think you should drop just that far, almost out of the top 25, because of a 3-point loss in a great environment such as Michigan State. The only thing I could think of to dock them a little bit, yes, the loss, but also, it was back and forth pretty much the whole game. But Arkansas did have the lead at the half, so I guess a come from behind win for Michigan State, and a come from behind loss for the Razorbacks. But a shout out to Darius Acuff Jr., 7th ranked recruit in the 2025 class. He was the first Arkansas freshman to have 15 plus points and 4 plus assists in his first 2 games of the season in the last 20 seasons. So another name for you to kind of stick to and look out for, Darius Acuff Jr., as well as Malik Thomas, another great freshman on that team. Acuff is also the 4th Razorback freshman with a 15 plus point and 4 plus assist in consecutive games in the past 15 seasons. Only other freshmen to do that, Boogie Flan did it 3 times, who now is playing at Florida. He transferred last year. Anthony Black 3 times, who was a one and done under Eric Musselman, went to the Orlando Magic, who's doing great there. And Moses Moody under Eric Musselman, who's now with the Golden State Warriors and is doing a great job there as well. So a lot of good basketball players, a lot of good freshmen coming to and from the Arkansas Razorbacks. They played UCA, University of Central Arkansas, this past Tuesday. They won 56-93, so a dominant game by the Razorbacks. And then they'll host Samford on Friday. So very quick back-to-back games for the Razorbacks. Finishing it all off within the top 25 SEC team only, number 22 Auburn, who is 3-0. So I wasn't gonna say surprisingly, but they are 3-0 under Stephen Pearl, Bruce Pearl's son, since he had retired. They were preseason number 20, so they dropped 2 spots out of the preseason. But they've added to its non-conference home win tally or total for 62 straight. And that's dating back to 2016, 2017 when Bruce Pearl was hired. So it's non-conference home. We'll just say it's hard to win at Auburn in basketball, at least for an out-of-conference opponent. They have the 4th longest active streak in the SEC as of November 6th, following Oklahoma with 75, Texas A&M with 79, and Missouri with 81. So they're closing in there, 62 at home, but Oklahoma's got 75 non-conference home wins, A&M 79, Missouri 81, so on and so forth. They did play Wofford this past Tuesday. They won that game 62-93, and then this Sunday is going to be a big test for the Auburn Tigers to see if they can get 4-0, but they've got to go through number 1 Houston, and that game will be played on Sunday. So a big spot for Stephen Pearl and his team, his first year being the head coach of the Auburn Tigers. And the Houston Cougars always have a great team. They're always up there in the top 5. And so far, right now, they are number 1. Early on in the season, it can change. It always changes, and it changes quickly and dramatically when it comes to college basketball. But this is going to be a true test for the Auburn Tigers. No need to hit the panic button yet and worry because Bruce Pearl's gone. This will be the one that says, okay, like, what is it called? A ligament test? I don't know what I'm looking for there, but it's going to be an eye test, so to speak, and a judgment game of where they really align under Stephen Pearl and how far that program really needs to work to get better. But we can continue with rankings going from basketball back to football because the CFP rankings have updated. Everything I said last episode has changed except for a few things. Memphis was at number 12. They're no longer there. So this is the way that the first round is currently looking. Again, we've got until December before it's set in stone of who's playing who, when, and where, and all of this. So as far as present day from this past Tuesday when it was updated, number 12 South Florida will be going to Georgia to play them. They're still ranked number 5. Number 9 Notre Dame at number 8 Oregon. Number 11 Miami at number 6 Texas Tech. The reason that it's Miami and not Oklahoma, even though they're at the number 11 seed, Miami's projected to be the ACC champion, and since they would be the highest ranked, one of the 5th highest ranked champions, they would replace Oklahoma at the 11th seed. And then number 10 Texas, they snuck in there at number 7 Ole Miss. So a lot can be said about whether Texas is going to stay. They've snuck in there so far. They've got a difficult road ahead of them with Texas A&M, and I'm not sure who else they've got. I've said it in previous episodes, but Texas A&M will be their final game. It will be at Texas, so they do have that advantage. But either way, it's going to be difficult to beat those Aggies. And now is when we get to make some judgment calls, because we're looking at week 12 this weekend, coming up in the next 2 days of the teams that are playing, and are there going to be any upsets? What's going to be the game to watch? I've got it coming to you right now, starting off South Carolina at number 3 Texas A&M. I mean, I said it last episode, Texas A&M's next true test will be at Texas. I think that they're going to go host South Carolina. The 12th man is going to show up. They're going to do their thing and continue rolling, be 10-0. Arkansas at LSU. LSU had a poor performance against Alabama. Now, I know that Arkansas's defense isn't as great as the Tide's, but their offense might just be a little bit better. LSU's missing one of their starting linebackers. I think it's Whit Weeks. He's out with injury, so Arkansas's offense can kind of pick on that middle linebacker position a little bit, especially if they kind of dig into Alabama's pockets and pull out some plays that they ran against the LSU defense, leading to them putting up as many points as they did. And Arkansas's defense has gotten a little bit better as the season's gone on. They just don't have that depth, and that's the only thing that's really hurt them this season is that defense. And depending on if it's going to be Garrett Nussmeier or Michael Van Buren at the quarterback position, that makes a big difference. Van Buren is a seasoned quarterback. He's played in the SEC before. He's been in these situations, but under an interim head coach and at a new program with a new playbook and a new style, sometimes it doesn't translate that well. So if Arkansas wants to get their first SEC win, that's the battle of the Golden Boot. So a lot of history in this game. It's a big, big rivalry. It's always been played towards the end of the season, but they switched that and made it the Battle Line Trophy with Missouri, which is stupid. I don't agree with it. I think it's dumb. If Georgia can end their season with an out-of-conference opponent in a rivalry with Georgia Tech, have Missouri go back and have their out-of-state or out-of-conference rivalry with Kansas rather than playing them in week 2. Make it the end of the game, end of the season, and then have Arkansas and LSU be the last game for the rivalry. Because I believe Arkansas has LSU, Texas, then Missouri. So a heavy-hitting slate for the Razorbacks. On the road at LSU, at home at Texas, and then at home against Missouri, or it's at Texas and then home against Missouri. So it's either 2 road games and a home game, or a road game and 2 home games for the Razorbacks. But it's not going to be easy for them. This is their one chance to really win, to do something. It's against a out-of-sync LSU team. So take advantage of it if you want it. Otherwise, go ahead and start making your head coach hire and getting the team functioning. Tennessee Tech at Kentucky, with the way that Kentucky handled Florida, I see them going on to win, especially at home in Lexington. And then believe this is the 2:30 time slot, a really big game. Could be an upset potential. Number 12 Oklahoma at number 4 Alabama. Don't get confused. I know I said number 11 Oklahoma earlier talking about CFP. That's the CFP rankings. These are the AP rankings. Number 12 Oklahoma. John Mateer is back. Seems to be doing really good with that thumb. I think this is going to be an offensive shootout. If not, it'll be one in the trenches on the defensive side of things. Alabama has a really good defense. We saw how they performed against Tennessee. We've seen how they performed all year. We've seen how the offense has performed all year. Oklahoma is really trying to get traction. This would be a win to put them within the college football playoffs since they're on the outside looking in right now. Give Alabama their second loss. Now, would they drop out of the top 12? Probably not. Would they drop to like 8 or 10? Maybe. An Alabama loss would help Vanderbilt. It would help them kind of squeak their way up in there or get a little bit closer since they're sitting at number 15. But this will be a really great game. It's a great time slot, that afternoon, evening time slot going into the night games. I think it'll be great. It's at Tuscaloosa, so a great environment, and it has all of the makings for a really, really great game for this Saturday. Moving on, New Mexico State at number 25 Tennessee. I think Tennessee goes on and wins that, but New Mexico State does typically have a decent team. These out-of-conference opponents I don't really keep up with because they're not SEC. But New Mexico State typically has a really good team. Fun fact, it's where Diego Pavia was before transferring to Vanderbilt. Then you have Florida at number 6 Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to keep being the Rebels. They're going to continue going on. Florida's in shambles at this point with Billy Gonzalez not really knowing what to do. He kind of became this head honcho power head, so to speak, and he thinks he has all the answers, and it doesn't seem, he's reading history books with no words in them. He's not getting any of the information, so it seems. I'm not going to bash the man, but it just doesn't seem like he knows the right places, the right pieces to put in place. We got there. Number 11 Texas at number 5 Georgia. This will be a good game. It's a night slate game. It's in Athens, which is a great environment. This is going to be the win that Texas needs to really secure themselves in the college football playoff ranking race. They're sitting at number 11 AP. They're number 10 CFP ranking. And Georgia's got one loss. That second loss could drop them out. If Oklahoma beats Alabama and Georgia beats Texas, then you have Georgia go to the 4 seed, and they have an automatic bye and don't have to play in that first round. So there's a good, there's potential for things to happen, but Oklahoma has to do something or Texas has to do something. Otherwise, it's all going to stay the same. We know that Texas doesn't play good on the road. We know that Georgia plays really well at home. So, it could go either or. Texas is kind of getting there on the offensive side of things, and Arch Manning kind of figuring things out. But I think Georgia has just been together for longer, and they understand the game plan, how things work. And Kirby Smart, it's his last name. He's smart with the plays that he calls and the decisions that he makes. Finally, finishing up the night, Mississippi State at number 22 Missouri. I think this will be a good game, seeing how Mississippi State has been, but still no word on whether Blake Shapen is coming back after his injury. And Missouri's quarterback's also out, so you're going to have backup versus backup. Probably going to be a lot of running, and if that's the case, Missouri does have the better running back. They have the better run game. They've always recruited really well at that position. So, and being at home, they always have a lot of energy. So I think that Missouri is going to edge this one out, but I wouldn't be upset if Mississippi State did go in and win on the road. I'm still trying to figure out how to transition from all of the sports news into this next segment. There's got to be a segue at some point. to where I can figure out how to flawlessly go from sports news to this segment that I really enjoy talking about and doing. But I think I'm just going to jump right into it and say it's time now for the scripture spotlight. So hopefully the music and the graphic calmed you and soothed you enough to forget that train wreck that I just went through to get to this spot right here. But today's spotlight will be shined. Still don't know the past or present tense of that word. Should probably be something that I look up. If I do, I do. If I don't, we'll keep going with shine or shown. But it's going to be Ole Miss's quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss. Again, some of these players do the eye black and the arm tape. Others just express it through social media. Chambliss is one of those that expresses it through social media. You know, after a big win, he'll make a post and put like a caption and then a verse, that sort of thing. But he's got two of them that are fairly common: Isaiah 26:3 and Jeremiah 17:7. So I've got my Bible. I didn't say as always this time. Haha, tricked you. But we're going to start with Isaiah 26:3, and it simply says, you will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. And now when it says you, this isn't speaking as like person to person. This is to God. This is to Jesus. And it's basically saying as we focus our mind on God and on his word, we become steady and stable. We aren't shaky with anything because we put our focus on him and we trust him. So we keep perfect peace because we know through that trust that he has us, and we're supported by God's unchanging love and mighty power. So we're not shaken by the surrounding chaos where it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like I lost my job. This isn't going the way that I thought or I expected it to be. But because we trust him, we know that we can sit and be still and he'll take care of it. We trust him and he loves us all the more for it. Then we have Jeremiah 17:7, and it says, but blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. These both pair really, really well. Isaiah 26:3 talking about keeping our focus on God and trusting him, and Jeremiah 17 the same way. Those who trust in the Lord will have abundant strength, not only for their own needs, but even for the needs of others. And if you keep those two verses in mind, if you ever have anxiety or this worry of things not going well, they're not going to plan, there's so much chaos, there's always an unexpected event. I was going to do this today, but there's traffic, I'm going to be late for work. There might be a reason, and if you can calm all of those thoughts by trusting God and knowing that he loves you, he cares about you, and he's going to do what's best for you. And that's going to be it for today's episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, whatever it may be on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, whatever it may be. Share it wherever you can. Tell a friend. We've got new music that hasn't been copywritten yet. Hopefully it never will, and I don't have to worry about editing new intros or anything of the sort. But again, I appreciate you listening this week. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know where I was going. I'll see you all next time here on Across the South.